Welcome to the Tour de France coverage with Chris Horner, Butterfly Effect. Baker Tilly is proud to sponsor this insightful series where experience meets the joy of the Peloton. Enjoy the next 3 weeks.
Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the Tour de France Stage 1 brought to you by Baker Tilly. Special thanks out there to Baker Tilly for sponsoring the whole 25 edition of the Butterfly Effect's Tour de France 2025. Now let's get into today's Stage 1 because we've been waiting a long time for the Tour de France to start here in 2025, and it's going to be a magical Stage 1. I cannot do this stage justice. There is going to be excitement throughout the whole stage. So at 185 kilometers, I'll call it 115 miles in length, with 3 category climbs, but they're only category 4 climbs. Don't worry about them. They come with about 145 kilometers to go. Then we have a sprint competition point line there that guys racing for the green jersey are going to want to go for about 100. Then we got a couple more climbs to go, but they finish up at about 46 kilometers to go on today's stage. So for sure it's going to be a field sprint. There's no doubt about it, right? Well, there's a little bit of wind out in today's stage, and we're talking about 27 kilometers an hour, but the day's nice. It's more or less sunny and 22 degrees Celsius, so it's not a bad day out. When we see the riders lining up at the front, we see all the national team jerseys up there. I want to give a little shout out there to Quinn Simmons, who's wearing the USA Championship jersey and just got put on the team last minute here after Theo Gegenhardt was sick there at Tour of Suisse. The American riders in. So we see all the national championship jerseys up there. We see Tadej Pogacar in the World Championship jersey, and we see second place Jonas Vingegaard, Visma bike lining up to start the neutral section. That'll be about 10 kilometers long. When the riders get going through the neutral section, you know everything's getting nervous here because it's stage 1 of the Tour de France, and we start seeing kilometer 0 come up. Once the riders hit kilometer 0, the official car is going to blow the whistle, and then we start seeing attacks right away, but 5 guys will roll off from kilometer 0. These 5 guys up front, they're throwing down right away, and the Peloton's going curb to curb back there. We start going up front to look at the 5 guys. We see Benjamin Thomas up there from Cofidis. We see Jonas Reusch there from Intermarché, Matthias Lebert from Arkea Samsic, Bruno Armai from AG2R, and Matteo Verscher from Total Energy. These 5 riders get a gap going up to about 2.5 minutes maximum time. And when we go back and look at the Peloton, of course, who's pulling? Alpecin de Koenig's pulling because they have Jasper Philipsen, they have Mathieu van der Poel and Caden Groves to be the last lead-out man for sure, right there for Jasper Philipsen. But Mathieu van der Poel, can he play a part in today's Stage 1? I told you yesterday and beyond the coverage that Mathieu van der Poel could control Pelotons coming into the final kilometers to do magnificent jobs to overhaul anyone. But I also told you guys Leadout Trek would be a solid team to do the lead-outs here on today's Stage 1 and the flat stages to come in the first 9 stages of the Tour de France that are not classic stages. So that's why we see Quinn Simmons and we see Sylvain Dillier up there from Alpecin de Koenig. These 2 guys are riding up front and they're holding the group up there at 5 riders at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We come up to the first KOM. A little bit of excitement up here and we see the Cofidis rider Benjamin Thomas grab maximum points. They drop down the backside and we come into about 135, 132 kilometers ago. We see a crash and it's Filippo Ganna, Team Ineos, that goes down. Now he goes down with Sean Flynn there and we see Ganna getting up slowly. He's going to be about 2 minutes behind the Peloton and he's going to have to do some chasing after some time spent back there on his own. Now, no, they don't send anybody back for Filippo Ganna, but eventually after 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, we're going to see Filippo Ganna get back on. But before that happens, we got to back it up because there was another crash with Stefan Bessinger. Stefan Bessinger went into the town, into the right turn, and we didn't get to see the crash proper, but we see him over on the left side of the road, and he's got to sit down in the chair and get a little concussion examination back there for the AG2R Swiss rider here at Stage 1 of the Tour de France. He'll get back up, but he's going to have a rough stage, and so is Filippo Ganna. Both those riders will not finish today's race. Now, we go up front with about 105 kilometers to go, and the 5 breakaway riders are getting wrapped up because it's been nervous, crazy nervous throughout the first 80 kilometers of today's Stage 1 of the Tour de France, curb to curb many times, and that's why we see the 5 riders getting wrapped up. As they get wrapped up, we're coming into about 100 kilometers ago. This is the first sprint point competition. We see Johnny Milan, Leadout Trek, grab maximum points. Of course, he's got Beniam Girmay in the top 5, behind him a few spots, and Jasper Philipsen's in and around the picture too. So we know what's forming right now for the green points jersey as we see Johnny Milan grab maximum points. Right after he does that, guess what happens? Benjamin Thomas and Verscher, Total Energy, the 2 original riders in the group of 5, attack again. they're going up the road. As these two guys are going up the road, they're coming up to the next KOM, the second one here on stage 1. And as they come up to the sprint, it's going to be a tight battle between the two with a bike throw from the Cofidis rider Benjamin Thomas throwing his bike to grab maximum KOM points that'll put him in the race leader's jersey. But first, wait for it. First, he's going to crash hard and he's going to take down Verscher from Total Energy. Both riders are going to spread out all over the road there with their bikes and bodies hitting hard on the cobblestone climb. Now, what happened? Was Benjamin Thomas a knucklehead? Was he just too fatigued when he threw his bike across the line? That's what I thought originally when I was watching it on the Chesterfield. But let's back up the film just a little bit and see what happened. As he's throwing the bike's going forward a little bit, and the bikes nowadays are so stiff and turned so tight that the wheelbase is a little bit short. Now they're on the cobblestones, and as he's throwing his bike, the back wheel's getting hit up from the bumps on the cobblestone, which is throwing it off just a little bit, and then the front end gets a little bit twisted. So although this is for sure Benjamin Thomas's fault, when we have to just blame it on somebody, if you really want to put blame on it, it's the cobblestones, the aggression coming to the line, and the bike throw, but it's that back wheel getting hit on the cobblestones that are a little bit adjusted wrong at this moment for two guys sprinting to the line at the top of a KOM on stage 1 of the Tour de France. So these two guys will sprawl out, but Benjamin Thomas and Verscher will get up and finish today's stage, and Benjamin Thomas will put himself in the race leader's KOM jersey when it's all said and done. Now they drop down the backside. Things are getting nervous again in the Peloton. It's crazy back here. We're starting to see Simon Yates with about 75 kilometers to go. He's got some bike issues, but it was difficult to tell. He was kind of hanging off the back a little bit, and he's had some problems at the back of the Peloton along with Lenny Martinez. Lenny Martinez from Bahrain Victorious has been swinging on and off the back throughout the first 90 kilometers of today's stage 1. It's been impressive that he still stays in the Peloton, but he has been off. He's been on the back. It's been all over the place, and guys have been having problems off the back of the Peloton, left, right, and center. As we see Simon Yates get his bike changed, he'll find his way back up to the Peloton, but it's going to be a rough day for Visma bike Simon Yates. Now, we go up front into just about 45, 47 kilometers to go. It's the third KOM, and Jonas Vingegaard's going over the top for Visma bike, but it's crazy nervous as we see Jonas Vingegaard grab maximum points on the third category 4, on the third climb. That's a category 4 here at stage 1. They drop down the backside. We got 40 kilometers to go, curb to curb, and the 4 favorites for the general classification. My 4 favorites are all at the front. UAE team members have always been at the front with Tadej Pogacar throughout this stage. Visma bike, Jonas Vingegaard, the same MO. Remco Evenepoel's at the front with 40 kilometers to go too. And if I take you back into some different time and moments here on stage 1, Pseudo Quickstep has done some okay job of keeping Remco Evenepoel at the front, but they haven't been at the front like UAE team members and like Visma bike have, along with Albacete de Koenig and Leadout Trek's done some time on the front too, but they've disappeared from time to time. We start looking at my 4th favorite, Primoz Roglic, with 40 kilometers to go. He's at the front too, sitting 2nd, 3rd row. He's right there around all the favorites, but Bora Hansgrohe have been not at the front that much, if at all, throughout this stage 1. They have been near the front, but they have not been doing a solid job of keeping Bora Hansgrohe in a good position with Primoz Roglic. But with 40 kilometers to go, he's still there. We come into 25 kilometers to go. The road starts to narrow up. Now we start seeing Pseudo Quickstep and Bora Hansgrohe disappearing a little bit from the front, and we come into 22 kilometers to go. And we see it's Visma bike at the front, and Tadej Pogacar sitting about 50th, maybe 55th position back there as it's starting to narrow out, and we're coming into some roundabouts and some rights and some left bends. Tadej Pogacar realizes he's a little bit out of place, and Jonas Vingegaard and Visma bike are in a good spot along with Albacete de Koenig. So Tadej Pogacar looks over his shoulder, realizes he needs to move up. He goes from 55th all the way up to the front in just a couple pedal strokes, and they're doing 60 kilometers an hour right now. So you know UAE team members Tadej Pogacar has got some legs here on stage 1 as he finds himself right up near the front row there, just with Visma bike, and he's got a teammate, Tim Wellens. Now we start coming into under 18 kilometers to go, and it splits after a roundabout. They come through the roundabout, and we see Uno X on the left side and Visma bike on the right. Visma bike's got Jonas Vingegaard up there, Jorgensen's up there, Feeney's up there, and Benut's up there. Now we start getting super interested. If it hasn't been interesting enough, stage 1 right now, and it has been an amazing stage. But now it's going to get really interesting as Jonas Vingegaard looks over his shoulder and throws down the gauntlet. As he starts pushing the pace, the Peloton at the back, guys are falling out the back, left, right, and center right now on stage 1, and the Tour de France has just begun for 2025. We go back up front. We see Matteo Trentin up there from Two-Door Cycling pulling through with Visma bike. I don't like this move at all because we know quickly that there's going to be a 40-rider split as we get the helicopter picture up top, and we see there's two main groups of about 40 and 60 riders chasing each other, and then the Pelotons exploded in echelon positions right now, left, right, all the way out the back of the Peloton as it's exploded. Up front, why don't I like Matteo Trentin right now from Two-Door Cycling pulling? Because you'll say, well, there's 3 of them up there, and they have Mayhofer up there. That's their sprinter. But I'll tell you right now, there's 5 Alpecin de Koenig riders up there. Mathieu van der Poel's one of them. Caden Groves, the lead-out guy for Jasper Philipsen there, and Jasper Philipsen himself is there, along with Zandro Mayus and Jonas Rickard up there. That's 5 guys, and that is their lead-out train. I told you guys on yesterday's Beyond the Coverage video that you don't want to come into the finish with Mathieu van der Poel pulling like crazy on the front, because he can outpull any team in the Tour de France. If you're Two-Door Cycling, if you're any kind of sprinter at all in this front group of 40, and you're a pure sprinter, you don't want to pull in this group. That's for sure, unless you're Tim Miller. But when we look at the second group, Tim Miller's missed a split. Not only has Tim Miller from Soudal Quickstep missed a split, but we see Remco Evenepoel's missed a split. And if you look at the picture at the moment, he's going over to the left side of the road. Just shortly after that, we'll see Remco Evenepoel rode himself off the road, and it was the Lotto Destiny rider Jared Drizzard right there that was coming from the right side to the left, and Remco Evenepoel panicked a little bit and moved too far left and rode himself off the road. It was not Jared Drizzard's fault from Lotto Destiny for driving off Remco Evenepoel off the road. He left him enough room, and Remco Evenepoel, to me, seemed like he panicked. Now, why does this matter? Well, up front, we know that Soudal Quickstep will be pulling like crazy because Remco Evenepoel's missed the move, and Primoz Roglic has missed the move too. Bora Hansgrohe has missed a 40-rider move, and Remco Evenepoel, along with Soudal Quickstep's Tim Miller, have missed a 40-rider split too. We go up front. We see Mathieu van der Poel's throwing in massive pulls on the front. Tadej Pogacar is like, okay, this isn't bad for me. I'll take some pulls up here, but I don't need to get carried away. I got one teammate, Tim Wellens, with me. Tadej Pogacar is in a pretty decent position right now. If he has a mechanical issue, he can make it to the second group back there, but it's not ideal. That's why Tadej Pogacar is not doing huge pulls on the front, but Alpecin de Koenig's pulling hard. Movistar were pulling hard up there because they got Enric Mas up there. And if you're a second-page GC rider and you've dropped Primoz Roglic and Remco Evenepoel back there, okay, why not pull? And you got your sprinter up there, Ivan Cortina's up there too pulling. Well, why not? This looks okay for Movistar, but it does not look fantastic for the other sprinters there because you got 5 Alpecin de Koenig riders. You don't want to start pulling. And if you're Jonas Vingegaard, I don't like this move. In fact, I'll call you knucklehead right now because you have Tadej Pogacar with you. I told you guys for a week on Beyond the Coverage that you want to work together. Jonas wants to work with Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic, and instead he's dropped those guys. So now you have less guys to put pressure on Tadej Pogacar when you get into the mountains. And let me remind you, if that's not enough right there for you to believe me, well, Visma Bike have dropped Simon Yates, who went out the back, and they don't have Sepp Kuss up here too, so they don't have 2 climbers that can help later in the mountain stages. But Jonas Vingegaard's only thinking about his own time and not thinking tactically correct, and I'm sure his directors are doing the same thing, so they're pulling like crazy up there. Now, Visma Bike do have 3 teammates with Jonas Vingegaard. They have Jorgensen, who is a monster rider. There's no doubt about that. Top of page 2, no doubt. Thies Benoot there, and Affini, the Italian rider, the classic specialist. He's up there and driving it on the front. But this is a knucklehead move because you have Tadej Pogacar with you. You have nothing to gain from this move. All you've done is taken pressure off of Tadej Pogacar at this moment as the time gap keeps going up and up, and we got it up to about 25 seconds right now with the work of Alpecin de Koenig, Visma Bike, some soft pedaling from Tim Wellens and Tadej Pogacar. Movistar's been driving through the front. Israel Premier Tech's been riding on the front too. Man, I don't like this. They got Pascal Ackermann in here, but you can't beat a lead-out train that's being led by Mathieu van der Poel with the tail back there of Jasper Philipsen when Mathieu van der Poel pulls off the front and Caden Groves will kick it so fast. How can you beat these guys? Well, we go back and look at the second group. What's happening back there? Well, like I said, when Remco Evenepoel went off and they replayed the video, they show him going off to the side of the road. That caused, of course, Soudal Quickstep, I assume, who had 2 guys, if not 3 guys on the front pulling originally, but now they got to pull those guys off the front because Remco Evenepoel's gone off the back of that second group. I didn't see how he get gets back on, but eventually when we get back there, we know that Pseudo Quickstep's pulling on the front. Bora Hansgrohe's doing a little bit of pulling on the front, but they're sitting about 4th position, and EF Education and X are messing up the flow because EF Education's got riders in the front group, and they're rotating through with Albacine de Koenig. Those guys are knuckleheads too. I don't care if his name is Vandenberg up there or not, and he thinks he's a sprinter. You cannot beat Albacine de Koenig with a clean lead out all the way into stage 1 of the Tour de France. But EF Education are slowing things down back there, and X is doing the same thing because they got 4 riders up in the front group, and they got Soren Vorenskol up there. But if you're a second-page sprinter at the Tour de France, guys, you want the whole field to come to the line so you have some chaos up front. You don't want to slow it down. You want to bring this back together so there's some chaos. But nobody's doing that, and no one listened to my whole week of videos on Beyond the Coverage. So we go under 10 kilometers to go. Matthew van der Poel's on the front pulling the brake. Got it up to 30 seconds right now, and it's going to keep extending out there. As we come into 9 kilometers to go, Caden Groves does the knucklehead move for Albacine de Koenig. I just got done telling you guys that they have a for sure win here with 5 riders in the front group, and Caden Groves opens up the gap to Matthew van der Poel and his teammate with Thies Benoot sitting on. Those 3 riders are starting to pull away, and then we see the next knucklehead attack coming from the back there as we see Tim Wellens jumps the gap and goes across to the 3 riders in front to pull 4. Now, why don't you want him up there? You don't want him up there because that's the only teammate that Tadej Pogačar has in that back group, and we still have just under 9 kilometers to go. So if something happens to Tadej Pogačar, you want to be able to switch bikes immediately. Instead, Tim Wellens jumps the gap, and he can't win up there against Matthew van der Poel anyways, so there's no reason to do it. We look behind, we see X is pulling on the front first, followed by EF Education. That's going to close this gap up to Matthew van der Poel to have a front group of 40, give or take, riders again. Now, we come into just about 5 kilometers to go, and there's a crash at the back of the peloton. What happened? Biniam Girmay got squeezed out by the Arkea Samsic rider. Sure, he slowed down, and then we see Vandenberg, EF Education, that his teammates been back there blocking the whole time so that Remco Evenepoel can't get back up, along with Primoz Roglic. Now we see Vandenberg going into the back wheel there. Biniam Girmay, as he's fallen over to the left side, I'll call it Jasper Philipsen, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure who he's fallen on, but he's fallen on Albacine de Koenig for sure. He's fallen on, but the Albacine de Koenig rider stays up. But Caden Groves is just behind the rider there that's fallen hard from EF Education, Vandenberg. As we look at Caden Groves, he's grabbing too much brake. The back wheel's coming high off the back. He's got to let go of the front brake, bring it back down, and then just misses Vandenberg as he's moving to the right. But Ben O'Connor, Jaco Alula, second page GC rider that's been in here, he gets taken down, but we're under 5 kilometers to go right now, so he'll get the same time. Caden Groves holds up. Enric Mas, Movistar, just barely holds it up too, and Caden Groves and Mas are going to have to do a big-time acceleration to close the gap up to the front. That's now got Tadej Pogačar on the front. Luckily for these guys, Tadej Pogačar just wants to ride the front and stay safe and keep out of trouble because this is a prime situation right now for him to gain some time. So as he's riding the front, he'll start to back off. Tim Wellens, his teammate, will come to the front and start riding some tempo. As he's riding some tempo, we're coming into about 3, maybe just under 3 kilometers to go. I'll call it 3.5, somewhere in that mark. And we see Albacine de Koenig at the back of this group of 40 start merging together with their 4 or 5 riders. As they're getting together, everybody better start to worry right now. But X are taking over the front. We're coming into 2.4 kilometers to go, and X is getting on the front with 4 riders. Now, guys, they have Tobias Johannesson in this front group. Jonas Abrahamsson's in this front group. Stian Freedom is in this front group, and Soren Vorenskol, their leaders in this front group. That's why they're taking over the front, but you're going too early right now because Albacine de Koenig are just merging behind you guys. As they're pulling the front, drilling it, we see Matthew van der Poel and Albacine de Koenig coming up the right side. They're going to start to blend in at about 1.5, 1.2 kilometers to go, and now you got enemies within the ranks there of X. You don't want enemies inside the ranks. You want to be in front of Matthew van der Poel and especially in front of Jasper Philipsen. But right now, as we're coming into 1.1 kilometer to go, there's 2 X riders on the front. One's getting ready to blow. The next one takes over and takes us under the 1K banner. And Albacine de Koenig are lined up on the back wheel there of the first place X rider, as Soren Vorenskol and his last lead out man are behind Jasper Philipsen and slightly out into the wind to the left. Well, the last rider for X pulls all the way into about 950, 930 meters to go. As he pulls off, he looks over his shoulder and he sees X. As X is coming up the right side, full gas, I'll call it Jonas Rickard on the front. Matthew Vanderpool sitting second, Caden Groves third, and Jasper Philipsen fourth. As the front rider from X sees the same thing I just got done telling you guys, he pulls off hard left, and what does he do? He cuts off his teammate that's coming over the left side on him. X have lost every hope here of winning today's stage as Jonas Rickard's taken over the front. He'll drive all the way into about 750 meters to go, and then Matthew Vanderpool takes over the front. As Matthew Vanderpool gets on the front, I'm sitting on Chesterfield, wrap this stage up. You go ahead and give it to Jasper Philipsen, and Matthew Vanderpool starts drilling it. He goes into about 450, 500 meters to go. As Matthew Vanderpool pulls off, now it's time for Caden Groves to go to work. As Caden Groves hits the front, we look over to the left side. Pascal Ackerman has started his attack all the way on the left side of the road, but he's got about 350 meters to go. That's a tall order from there. Caden Groves looked over, saw it coming, didn't even change his rhythm, just kept hot on the right side next to the fencing with Jasper Philipsen sitting solid on his wheel. Biniam Gurmai just behind him, and Storm Vorenskol from X has found himself a position or two just behind Biniam Gurmai. As Caden Groves is going all the way into about 275 meters to go, there we see Biniam Gurmai throw in his attack up the right side, but Jasper Philipsen sitting calm as he wants to go a few more meters on his lead-out man, Caden Groves. As Biniam Gurmai is coming up to the right side there of Jasper Philipsen, then Jasper Philipsen starts his kick at about 250 meters to go, just a little under. Jasper Philipsen throws in the kick. It's a huge acceleration. On the left side, Pascal Ackerman starting to die once we get under 200 meters to go. Jasper Philipsen starting his acceleration on Biniam Gurmai. We get into 150. He's solidly into the front, and at 100 meters to go, he's blowing off the back wheel of every sprinter that's left in this small group of 40 as Biniam Gurmai is opening up a bike length behind Jasper Philipsen that'll drive it all the way into the line and sit up and celebrate. He gives the hands to both of the helmets there in disbelief because he's just won stage 1 of the 25 Tour de France and took in the race leader's yellow jersey. Biniam Gurmai across the line for second, and Soren Vorenskol, X across the line for third. Now, Tadej Pogacar, of course, is in this front group. Jorgensen's in this front group. Jonas Vingegaard is in this front group. They have all gained just under 40 seconds on Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic. But guys, if I didn't explain it clearly enough to you early when this break was splitting off, this was a terrible move for anyone not called Albacin de Koenig and not called Tadej Pogacar. I'll give it to Biniam Gurmai, who got second on today's stage, because I don't think Biniam Gurmai is the pure sprinter on this flat kind of stage, but he does gain some green points that'll help him over Johnny Milan and Tim Miller that could have possibly been in front of him on today's stage. So I'll give Biniam Gurmai the green light to be in this front group. I said Enric Mas from Movistar because he's a second page GC rider, and Ben O'Connor, they have the green light to work in this group. But when you're talking Visma Lease bike, it was a knucklehead move to drop Simon Yates. And if he's sick, then maybe he comes better for tomorrow's stage. So you don't want today's stage to be hard. But you drop Simon Yates. You drop Sepp Kuss that could put pressure on Tadej Pogacar. You dropped Remco Evenepoel. You dropped Primoz Roglic that I told you guys for a week you have to work together to put pressure on Tadej Pogacar. Now, when would this 40-rider group be good? If you don't have Tadej Pogacar there and you're Jonas Vingegaard and you have Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic with you, you drive this group 100% if you don't have Tadej Pogacar. But if you have Tadej Pogacar in this group, unless your power numbers have gone up from the last 3 weeks since Dauphiné, this was a knucklehead move. Visma Lease bike messed up tactically royally here on stage 1 of the Tour de France. Now, Albacin de Koenig, Matthew Vanderpoel, tip of the hat. You guys were something special. Caden Groves, other than letting your teammate open that gap up, that was a ridiculous move. But it was a great lead out at the finish. And Jasper Philipsen's wearing the race leader's yellow jersey. So congratulations to Albacin de Koenig, who wrapped up today's stage 1 in a magnificent style. Tadej Pogacar gained time on just about everyone, except for Jonas Vingegaard, but he didn't do much work today anyway, so who cares? Now, when we go into tomorrow's stage 2, it could be a classic stage, could be something exciting at the finish of tomorrow's stage. We'll have to see if Wout van Aert's got some form. Matthew Vanderpoel, we know he has some form, so we might see a classic battle again against Tadej Pogacar and the GC favorites amongst the other back there. But will Remco Evenepoel be able to get his act together? Guys, Remco Evenepoel and Primoz Roglic, I didn't even see them ride in the front. That's not to say they didn't ride the front. That's to say I did not see them ride in the front. And if you have 40 guys going up the road, one of them's named Tadej Pogacar and the other's Jonas Vingegaard, you have to be riding the front. Remco Evenepoel should have been riding the front, and Primoz Roglic should have been riding the front. The moment that split happened, and I never saw either of them at the front of that second group chasing, so those guys are knuckleheads too, and certainly their teammates are. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next edition of the Butterfly Effect Stage 2 of the 25 Tour de France.